Oh, hello, educator friends, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We are back for another episode of the School Life series, and if this is your first time tuning in, I welcome you and I thank you for listening. The School Life series is a platform designed for educators, all educators. It's designed to give educators a voice, give them a platform to share their story, but most of all, a place where educators can take real strong strategies, examples, and implement them tomorrow into their school day, into their life. And so today we've got another outstanding, excellent guest I'm super excited about. Breauna Wall is a forever educator, just like myself. And we've connected over social media and we keep trying this thing of getting her on as a guest. And today I'm excited to say we are here. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. But as always, incredible educator, but even better human being. So, Bree, thank you for joining us all the way from sunny Southern California.
Yes. Hello. Oh, what a pleasure to be here. You're right. It's been
Uh,
a journey getting to
Yeah.
this space, and I'm so grateful we prioritize time to connect. And I'm really looking forward to it. I followed your show and just your work, just you as a human being and, your family. So just
Yeah.
glad to be here, honored to be here. And a little bit about me. So I have a consulting business in education, Collaborative Ed Solutions, and I enjoy facilitating professional learning experiences. And we know that that can come in many different ways. So I support school leaders and educators, support staff by way of coaching, professional learning workshops, conducting needs assessments, classroom studies, all the fun stuff. And then I also am honored really to be in the field serving new teachers. So teachers in California that are doing their field work, I have opportunities to supervise their
Okay.
clinical practice. And so it keeps me fresh, challenged even. And then lastly, I'm a teaching associate with Johns Hopkins University. So I have the pleasure of serving my alma mater in the doctoral studies and supporting that program. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. And I
that's all of me
apologize.
professionally.
She is a doctor. I should have said
No,
Dr. Breauna
you're
Wall.
fine.
It's always special when we have doctors in the house. Yeah. Congratulations though on everything where you're at. And we talked before we hit record here in just about the mission for both our
Yeah,
works, and it's about supporting educators and being
absolutely.
in a place that's just all about making an impact, making a difference, and making educators' lives better. And so here we
Oh yeah,
are talking on a show that is designed for that, and I think
yeah.
it's perfect for our visions and our missions. So tell us a little bit about your journey as an educator.
Yeah. So, I am one of those that did not follow the traditional pathway, meaning bachelor's in education. It was not me. I was actually studying to go on to law school after my undergrad and serve as an attorney. And I just took a turn and I was actually in, oh my goodness, my last year, my senior year, of my undergraduate career at the University of Minnesota. And I had an aha moment. I was finishing an internship as a juvenile probation officer. So I was well, just into that field, studying
Yeah.
criminology, all the things. And a supervisor whom I'm still connected to today via social media, we had our last meeting and he puts his hands on his desk, all dramatic. And he's like, Brianna, you're just such a sweet girl. Thank you for all the work you did. But honey, you're really out there to save the world. You won't be able to do that.
Well,
And I'm thinking like, oh, he's gonna say all these sweet little things or saying goodbye. And
yeah.
he was so sincere. He looked me in my eyes and he's like, you're really trying to do something that's really big and like, ooh, it's not realistic. And it was that moment where I remember leaving and walking down the stairs. I'll never forget it in South Minneapolis. And I was like trying to swallow that. I'm like, whoa, what
Yeah.
just happened? Like,
Like what a
really?
compliment on one hand, right?
True. Yeah, at the time, I wasn't seeing that, but you
But
are
could you
right.
have told me that 4 years ago?
Exactly. I was like, this was
Yeah.
rough. And what's fascinating is I was having a tough time swallowing that, but I had then got an email from a mentor shortly after that, and all the things aligned. And she was like, "Hey, do you want to come to this event? We have Teach for America recruiters on campus. You should come check it out." And the rest is history. I turned pathways and I had this aha moment after I met with that recruiting team. And I'm like, you know what? There it is. Education is the key to
Mhm.
social justice because that's what my heart was after.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, well, that's how you do it. And so I told Teach for America, ship me across the country. I'll go wherever you want. So I
Okay.
landed in Phoenix, Arizona first. And
Okay.
I just continued studying education ever since. I got credentialed in special education. So that's my passion area. And that's where it all began.
And that's what we're going to dive into. If you're listening and you're like, where are we going with this? We're going to dive into special education here in a little bit. And so I'm excited to do that. So, and I was going to ask you that. How did you go from Minnesota? Like, it gives me cold chills just when you say that, to Southern California.
Oh, man. Oh,
That's
growing up, my biological parents were not in the same home. And so I was blessed to grow up with my stepfather and my mom mainly, but I would fly to see my father in Arizona. So sometimes I'd spend like every other summer, every other year, and I just had these like fond memories of blue skies and warm weather because you're right in that Minnesota Ross was like, oh, I just get the shakes. So that's how I landed there. And then for family, my husband at the time was from California, and so he moved the family over, and now I'm in SoCal to stay, and I love it.
love it. Yeah, I love my
Yeah,
time in Southern California. So don't
yeah,
blame you as long as you're not dealing with wildfires or earthquakes or
right. That's a whole
anything
nother
insane
conversation.
like that, for sure. So you already shared a little bit about, your story, and I love it because
Thank you.
I'm definitely resonate with you. Like, that was my problem even as a principal. I was like, I just wanted to fix and change lives like that.
Mm,
But a lot of times we have to get to the root, right? And so it takes time. It does, and it was discouraging at times, working with students that we just pour so much into, and never see change.
lee.
I ran into some of them even recently, like years and years down the road, and they thank me and say, "Hey, you were the one adult that believed in me, and that's it, right? Like, that's all we need."
So
And
profound.
so, yeah, it really is.
Wow.
So you mentioned a little bit like somebody that negatively influenced you, I guess, but who can you say, in your life that you look back and say that person or these couple people really just have had an influence on me?
Mm. So first, I would say God. That's
Yeah.
like, my just faith walk is the priority steering wheel in my life.
Mhm.
And that is so when you say relationship in person, it's a relationship that I genuinely have and appreciate. I feel
Love
like I'm
that.
living my best life in my faith walk. And so that's definitely the most influential. And I would say I could pick a couple. I'm gonna say top of the mind, one person that comes to mind is Mr. Todd Wade. He is a leader at Pan American Charter School. It's where I first started with my education career over a decade ago as a teacher. And I started as a special education teacher. First couple years, especially not coming from a traditional path, were rough. I had the
Yeah.
passion, and there's
Yeah.
good times in there for sure.
But you weren't prepared.
There you go. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Ross, you said it. I wasn't. And like what he saw in me was this like wild passion and I really, even though I was getting credentialed in special education, I had a heart for it. I had this like passion about cross departmental collaboration, and it wasn't existent. There was a lot
Yeah.
of segregation, if you will, amongst departments. And he believed in me, and he gave me so much autonomy and just leadership opportunities to be able to lead some of the initiatives that I was passionate about, study those things. And so to this day, like we were actually just recently catching up that he definitely made a prominent impact on my life, especially when it comes to the field of education.
Yeah, I love that. And
Thank
just from
you.
hearing that story, what a great leader, because that is leadership. And I say that. I mean, there's former teachers that I have that some are teaching, across the country now, or some got out of education. And
Mhm.
then I just got a text the other day, hey, will you be a reference? Always. You don't
Yeah,
have to ask me, right?
absolutely.
Like, it's it. So, I'm always forever in your corner. And so that's leadership. That's it. So kudos to him. But Another
Yeah.
question I always like to ask in the intros was, what's something that's been a game changer, a hack? I say in your school life because we're on the school life series, but it can
Sure.
be in your professional life. What's something you
Mm.
implemented and it's just opened doors for you?
So with this one, and I know you've asked this before, and I love this as like just a common part of these conversations. I connections is the first word that comes to my mind. Like I just valuing people and connections. And you know what? It's not always going to be warm and fuzzy with everybody that we meet in a school outside of it. But like to just make sure that, no matter what challenges we're up against, obstacles, you name it, like just valuing people for being people. And you even said that such a sentiment on the show of like
Yeah.
being a human and just like a good
Yeah.
human. What a
Yes.
compliment. 'Cause at the end of the day, that's what we are. So
Right.
I'd say just like making sure, especially through challenging times, that you just remember like we're people at the end of the day. That helps me to always like redirect my heart and my mind posture anytime I'm interacting with someone. So I'd say that's probably first and foremost.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And
Thank
you're
you.
right. I mean, I it sounds judgmental probably,
Oh, no,
but
you're good.
I'm only going to have guests on here that I know generally are great people, right? That are going to pour into others
What an
generally
honor.
and give special, advice, not just for their educational life, but their personal life as well. And so that doesn't mean I'm not going to go out and support and mentor people that need a little help,
Yep.
but they're not going to be on this platform. That's just what it is. And so,
So, what an honor.
you're here today
Thank
for
you.
sure. My last
Thank
intro
you.
question, and this is something that I know just you and I, if you would go look at our social media pages, it's really important to you. But why is positivity so important for you?
Oh man, yes. I am so fortunate we have that in common, and
Mhm.
sometimes it can be rare to find. I When you surround yourself with people, it's not so rare, but I've really really valued that in just all that you do. And so thank you for that, because it's a constant like fuel for my
Yeah,
passion and my life of like a positive journey. Here's like
yeah.
I guess the short end is like it's just a better way to live, man.
It's
I
really
don't know.
that simple. Well, I don't know why people can't figure it out, but it's really that simple,
That's it.
isn't
That's all
it?
I gotta say there.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, it's just
I
that
mean,
simple.
yeah, it just choose it's a choice. It
It is
really
a
is. And
choice.
for I would say for people like you and me, it's an easier choice, if we just wake
Really.
up. I have actually had that question. I was in Iowa this August, past August, doing a session, and I had a guy come up to me and he goes, "Are you just always this happy?" And like I think he was kind of offended. And I said, "Yeah, I am." And
Heck
he
yeah.
goes, can you coach me on how to do that? Because it's something I struggle with. And so it's opened up to this whole commitment. And we still check in time to
Wow,
time, but it took that kind of conversation with me realizing for some people this is hard,
it is
and I laugh and
hard.
say it's that easy, but if it's not that easy, then how can we make it easier for you? Because when like you said, you surround yourself by other positive people, when you
Yeah,
wake up and decide to have that mindset every day, regardless of everything that's thrown at you during the day, then you're going to live a happier, better life.
yeah,
I mean, it really is true. So let's get
beautifully
into
said.
today's topic, Bree,
Okay.
and fired up for this because you have a brand new book out, Leading Special Education: How to
Yeah.
Support, Retain, and Empower Teachers for Success. Love
Yay,
the title. I
thank
love the
you.
title. I'll start right there. But why don't you just start off by telling us about the book? What is it?
Yeah.
What can educators gain from it?
Love that question, and I too am a fan of the title.
Yeah,
So I appreciate that. No, seriously though, I even ran it by, just some colleagues and friends, and it was really important for the title itself to be powerful, because think about it, that's all you have at first. We judge a book by its cover,
we
literally.
do.
And
Yeah.
so thank you for saying that, because it
Uh-huh.
spoke to something in me.
Especially in a market that's pretty saturated right now. I mean, there's a lot of
Preach.
educational materials out there that
Yeah,
it's got to bounce off the shelves for me to say,
bingo.
hey, what is that about?
You're right. Spot on. You know your stuff. It's true. And so honored to partner with Solution Tree as my publisher in this process. It's been a really incredible experience, very rewarding thus far. And so what it's about in a nutshell is in answering it, I'm going to share a little bit about my journey in writing it because that
Okay.
speaks to it. You know, like
Yeah.
we're passionate in education about, we kind of have our niche and there's this focus on what we do, but at the same time, there's a broad, right? And so I
Mhm.
thought, like, how can I just get like a bucket of strategies into the hands of school leaders and educators? And so it's not an end all be all, but it's strategies for successfully supporting teachers in special education and students that work with students in special education programs and strategies to facilitate successful programs. So, what does that all mean?
Yeah.
The chapters in the book focus on first and foremost the power of connections, and then mentoring is in that chapter. And so we were just talking about the importance of
Hmm.
people and it's like
Yeah.
right there.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it talks about professional learning and its critical importance,
Okay.
but how to do it in partnership with teachers. And then I talk about conducting needs assessments, that critical element, how to collaboratively plan for IEPs, not just surrounding a meeting, but the individual education plans that also need to be implemented on an ongoing basis. So you get that cross departmental collaboration
Hmm.
again. And then we transition to through things like co-teaching, co-planning, again, cross-departmentally. So this is not all about special education teachers. And then one thing that I'm really passionate about that comes up in here after my chapter on technology is I land in this space of like coaching up and not coaching out. And it's
Ooh.
one of my favorite like unique parts of this book and it relates directly to personal experiences and professional experiences I have where we have this idea of performance improvement plans and I've just experienced especially having to serve on leadership teams and I know you're a principal and have certainly had experiences with these things. And I've just found that sometimes they do seem like an I gotcha. They do
Yeah.
seem like they, you know, there's an intention to coach people out, at least by the way that they're implemented sometimes. So this
Absolutely.
chapter is like, let's take like a success model mindset. And how do you do this really in partnership where you go into it intending to truly support growth?
Yeah.
And that was probably more than you asked for in the little summary, but that like walked
No.
through all the chapters a little bit there.
No. That's great. And if you're listening right now and you're like, "But my school doesn't need that," you are not the norm. One thing that you and I have been able to do over the past few years is work with a lot of schools. And I'm sure you're with me, is it's almost every school that I work with. It's your students, my students, right? Team here, team here. They don't sit by each other, they don't speak to each other.
Bingo.
And I say this a lot when I work with schools, but like it's really there's not a mutual respect. And that
Bingo.
blows my mind because we're all educators. We all have an educator heart here. But,
Yeah.
like, you're not respecting my work because it's the
Right.
same work at the end of the day, right? And these
Yes.
are all our students. There's no yours and mine, and so,
Yep.
getting that understanding a lot of times, I will say educators that feel that way or their school feels that way, it's
Yeah.
not intentional. Like,
Mm-mm.
it really
Nope.
isn't. It's not like I don't like that person, I don't like their work. It's just I'm in my zone, I'm doing my thing, and I could care less, and so
Yeah.
we gotta
Agreed.
knock the walls down and bring everybody together,
You.
and so
I love what you
I
said.
know that's your passion and that's your work, but it's true, and that's why this book is so needed. And I've noticed on social media a couple times that you've said it's one of a kind. Why would you say that it's one of a kind?
Okay. So I love this question.
Yeah.
Because I think it literally is. So first, as a part of the process when, you know, selecting the not selecting, but partnering with a publisher is, you know, they want to know like, okay, what you're going after, is that already out here? Is, you know, it like we talked about the saturated market. And so first and foremost, there literally isn't a book like this. And then a couple details as to why is one, I aim to reach a variety of environments in learning, virtual, hybrid, and in person. And
Okay.
I don't know a single book, especially on this topic, that aims to reach all of those types of
No way.
schools. And so there's that. And then I consider myself an advocate of teachers and a partner of leaders. So that's what I've come up with. And like the book is targeting school leaders of all kinds. So instructional coaches, lead teachers, principals, superintendents, but uniquely and also unique to other solution tree books is it's like targeting them specifically. And it's saying, here, let's talk about how we can better support them, our teachers. And I always like to include, though, leaders involved, you know this, and especially with your philosophy or way of living, like it's not just to a title, but anyone who is wanting to lead programs and teachers in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Leadership is not a title, it's impact. But I love that, Bree. So I'm going to say that again. Hey, hey, hold on. You said it. No, you got to say it again because now I've lost it. Hey, what are you for teachers?
I'm an advocate of teachers
Advocate
and
for
a partner of
teachers
school
and a
leaders.
partner for leaders. I love that because that's not normal either. Like it's hard to find that because
Thank you.
another, gosh, I'm getting on my soapbox and pet peeve here,
No,
but
do it.
it really, I mean, it's always teachers versus admin, right?
Exactly.
It's everywhere. And so,
Yes,
and then it doesn't need to be like that.
it
And there's
doesn't.
not very many administrators out there that says, I'm out to get teachers, I'm out to catch you here. And there's not a
Yeah.
lot of teachers that want to step into the principal's shoes either. And
Right.
so
Both ways.
why then why is it like this? And so speaking of that role, and I will say 100% was in this boat and struggled with this. Special
Mhm.
education can be really difficult for the school administration position
Yeah.
because got 1,000 things going on at all times, right? You're supervising events on top of all of this and preparing for this event and that event and all of
Yep.
these things. And then special education is can so easily become like one more thing or another
Yeah.
thing.
Yes.
And then I know a lot of school administrators are spending a lot of their time and energy with special ed students, right? Whether it be discipline or,
Yep.
IEP, there are all these different things. And so then it becomes all of your time but you can't. And so it's just this constant like cycle. Can we
Absolutely.
support that?
Oh, that was so good. What I'm
That's deep, I know.
enjoying on your show is just like you're just so inspiring, when you talk and you have such a wealth of experience that it's just
Appreciate that.
benefiting me so greatly to have an opportunity. So thank you
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
that.
you're welcome. Thank you.
And the way you describe this is it's right. Like you could tell that you're so familiar with it far beyond, where you are at locally. Like and then to hear that we have similarities in what we're seeing in the field is helpful to have that confirmation too. And so for school leaders, even specifically administrative positions, like first and foremost, and there's sort of a theme with me, it's about people. And so I think that first and foremost, it's listening, it's hearing from the people that you
So good.
serve and this has come from just innately who I am and believing that's a priority, but also in the schools that I worked with. Sometimes there are assumptions being made about what the challenges in special education are, or thinking that, we don't want to include them too much because, they got so much on their plate. And we just need to connect and have time where we're listening and learning for one another and then
Yeah.
partnering on the way that we move forward in our work together. So I'd say that
Yeah.
first and plenty of other things.
I like that. That's really
Thank
good.
you.
And one thing too, I noticed so, and I was guilty of this again for sure, but like you let things build up, build up, build up, and you don't put or connect or put the time and energy into it until it becomes a big deal.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then you got a 3-hour meeting where you're hashing things out and
Ugh,
it gets ugly,
a
right?
lot. Yeah.
But if we would just take 10 to 15 minutes and meet weekly,
Yes. Come on.
come on,
There it
that's
is.
all it takes,
To
right?
prevent
I
that.
mean, it prevents
Preventative
it. It
care.
really does. And so when you talk about connections and being there for each other, like it doesn't have to be a big deal. You just
Exactly.
be intentional, put it in your schedule, put it into your time, say Monday at 2 o'clock, we're going to spend 15 minutes every Monday for, and that's where you
Yes.
can see some positive
See
impact and real
results.
change. So
And can I add one thing to
for
this?
sure, you're the
Because as you're
guest.
describing it I knew you would say yes, I don't know why I asked. As you're describing it, something that you mentioned earlier that's coming to center right now about it's not because people want to have problems or like don't, have students' best interests in mind. No, we're all inherently good. There's like historically the way that teachers were prepared, the way that even administrators were prepared. This is something that I've studied in my graduate
Mhm.
endeavors, and there are systems and processes in place that got us to where we are. And so it can feel and be really big at times. And so another thing that I would add in addition to connections is just like slowing down and working on being okay with addressing things step by step, because
Ooh, I
that's
like
our
that.
true reality. And in our fast-paced sector of education, that's not really the norm. And I get it because we have pressure on delivering certain outcomes, but
Yeah.
man, slowing down and being able to create that growth over time, like there's beauty that will blossom from that. So that's what I'll
Yes.
add.
No, I love that. That's great.
Thank
I mean,
you.
I told you I struggled with that. I wanted to see change
I
now,
know. We
right?
all do.
By the end of the week, you better have it together. Like this better be done. But that's you got to slow down and be okay with slow change. And so, you've already shared a lot of just real practical strategies, and I love all of them. I know our
Mhm.
listeners are too. But here's another question I have for you. Give us a strategy or two for the general education teacher when it comes to special education because it's 2025. I know we shouldn't have to have this conversation or this
I
question,
know.
but it's still the reality, right? And I still think a lot of general education teachers, and it's not their fault. Again, you mentioned the systems, right, that are in place that just cause gen ed teachers to be frustrated when it comes to special
Absolutely.
education. And so,
Absolutely.
what can you do to support those people that are feeling that way?
Absolutely. I just appreciate everything you said. So I won't repeat it. It was great and really important. So I hope y'all are hearing that. We know the intention is purely good. And so two things. It would be a part of it is going to be connection again, because it's something that's like may seem kind of silly, but it's just like carving out time to connect with a special educator. And maybe you're hearing this, you're like, I already had a buddy. Like we talk all the time, we go to lunch, but like, well, maybe another one, maybe someone different, but also
Yeah,
just to where you're spending intentional time sharing practices. And maybe you're going to pick a specific student every week or every other week that you're just going to dive in. Maybe set a timer for 10 minutes and just allow yourselves to have a discussion about your practices and share ideas and things like that in an intimate way. Because then you just discover things about each other. You learn tips and tricks, but you also grow at the same time a level of respect. It just
yeah,
comes from
yeah.
that.
That mutual respect.
Um,
We talked about that.
yeah, well, you just talked about that, and so
Yeah.
it's like fostering that in and of itself. The second thing I would say would be emotional climate. There's a lot of work. Dr. Hardiman's put out work about this,
Mhm.
several other psychologists and sociologists and educators that have studied brain-targeted teaching practices. So maybe Google that because there are some critical strategies shared in
Yeah.
there. And the first and most important part of any brain-targeted teaching practice is the emotional climate. And so
Yes.
I would just say, as a general educator, what you'll find if you explore this a little more is that what's good for one student is
Yeah.
often good for many. So
Yep.
there we go. That's
Yeah.
my lead in.
I mean, how
UDL,
many
same
times do
thing.
you see that? Right? Yeah,
Yep.
UDL, you hit it. Is you think I'm going to do this for this one student, and all of a sudden you realize like your whole classroom's in harmony because it
Yeah.
works for everybody here. It's working for, and there's so many benefits to it. I love
Yeah.
that. One thing I'll add to you because you were
Please do.
implementing it or you're talking about, but people that challenge you,
Ooh.
like you talked about your bestie. Like I got a bestie.
Yep.
We're on the
Yep.
same page when it comes to this. But maybe somebody that you're like, I want to hear their strategies because they don't necessarily align with mine,
Bingo.
but they're why do they do it? And sometimes, you each need to hear that and say, hey, okay. And then you realize, and again, mutual respect is built. And so, Bree, what about we're starting to wrap it up a little bit, but
Okay.
what are some of the benefits to this work? All right, or takeaways from your book? Because you
Mm.
obviously this is your thing, and so when we do these strategies, what are the benefits?
I love that question. And by the way, it's such a pressing question in the writing endeavor too. There's a lot of
Yeah,
pressure, when writing a book and self-doubt seeps in and all these things. And so my goal wholeheartedly was to make sure that there was benefit in many of the pages, right? And so I appreciate the question because I included things like voices in the field. So I honor a handful of educators in the field, general
Nice.
special educator, interventionist, principal. And so you get to hear those voices in each chapter that can attest to some of those strategies. So I hope that there's okay, someone has done this and it's been successful. But
Yep.
then my favorite is the takeaway toolkits.
Ooh,
So
okay.
there are, like, I don't want to just talk about it, I want to be about it. So I give
Yeah.
some tools to help. And, and if you access those tools, if you choose to explore this book, and you want support bringing that to life in your context, then we have people who can support that as well. But I wanted there to be some sort of like starter kit, if you will, in each
Yep.
of the chapters. So I'd say there's a
Oh,
benefit there.
yeah. I like that. Yeah. I mean, that's like, I'm not going to do something if it's just to do it, right?
Right.
There needs to be some benefit to this, whether it's for my students, for myself, whatever. So
Definitely.
that's good. Anything else, Bree, you want to share about your book, about special education before we go into our last couple questions?
No, no. I
No?
think we
Okay.
covered it. You asked incredible
Yeah. Well, we
questions.
definitely
Thank
have.
you.
It's been a great conversation. So my last two questions that I always like to end with is one, what advice do you give to all educators right now, 2025, in this current state that we're in?
Oh man, this is always it's like there's a lot of things we could say, but then you're like, you just have one, dun 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 dun. So I want to make it important, and this is a good thing to have just one to share, because oftentimes when listening, that's all we can hold on to anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I would just say, like, having some sort of practice that allows you to just ground yourself in the positivity of our work. And it may be somebody that will give you a smile when you walk down the hall, or a
Mhm.
virtual counterpart you can Skype with if you're in an online school. Just have an intentional way of engaging with other humans that are positive. Because then anytime you're going through something, your student's going through something, you name it, it's being fueled inside you. It's like a cycle that we just have to repeat. So do that as well for your own well being and self care, because you deserve it. I don't care what anyone has said or done to you or with you. Like, I'm speaking to all educators.
Yeah.
You deserve love and positivity. So let's make sure you're
Whew.
surrounded by that. So that would
Good.
be my one thing.
I like that. And then
Thank
what
you.
advice do you give to students?
Students. Oh, they're so fun.
Yeah. Right?
You
It's
know,
the reason for
often
our work.
exactly. It is. It's ultimately, Ross, and you said this before, it's like what fuels us, like right at the core of what we're
Yeah.
all talking about in this is the
Yeah.
student.
It's kids.
So I
Yeah.
would encourage students to seek opportunities to give feedback. And even if they're not there, be bold and create them. Because look, if we don't hear from your voice, from your writing, or through your communication technology, if we don't hear from you, then we're left to make assumptions based on actions and performance and things like that. And we just want to hear from you. So I'd say be bold and courageous, maybe get with a couple buddies and just somehow be willing to share that feedback, because I think sometimes that's a missing link for us, is hearing directly from the people that we're all in this to serve for in the first place.
Yes. Perfect. I love that advice. So thank you so much. And you know what? One thing that I will take away from this that we just talked about is
Yeah.
educators, don't forget that we are in the kid business. So many
Yeah.
times that we lose, especially if we're not working with kids each and every day, like you and I
Yep.
are, we
Yep.
forget like what's our purpose here? It's
Yep.
kids. At the end of the day, we're in the business of changing lives and building our next generation of leaders and
So good.
positive humans and great humans. And so that's our role. Don't forget that. Don't lose sight. Educators that are working with kids every day. These are
Yeah.
like the tough days of school year. If you're listening
Great.
currently as this comes out, these are the toughest days of the school year. Don't forget
Yeah.
your why. Why are you doing this work? It's for the kids. And so, as we wrap
Beautiful.
it up, as always, shout out to School Life for sponsoring the podcast. But thank you, Dr. Wall.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you on as a guest. Thanks for carving out the time, sharing your
Definitely.
expertise, your knowledge, your passion.
Thank you,
So,
Ross.
share with our listeners how they can contact you if they have questions, they want the book,
Yes.
if they want to bring you to their school. Go ahead.
Yay. Oh, great. Thank you. So, for the book and even to learn more about me, you can Google leading special education and it will likely come up, as well as like my name. If you don't remember anything from this part, that is your go to. I'm also connected with Ross on Instagram at Solutions with Bree, BRE, and then Collaborative Ed Solutions. You can find me as well. So, I'm all around LinkedIn, everywhere.
You can find, yeah, all right. In this world that we're in, you can
Right.
find me. Google me.
Love that.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Bree. I love the conversation. Thank you to all of our listeners who have listened in. If you want to be a guest or have somebody that you think needs to be a guest, let me know. I love hearing from folks and getting that feedback. But as always, thanks for listening, liking, sharing. Bree, till next time.
Thank you. Until
All
next
right.
time. Bye.